All right. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you might be listening to this little session that I have created just out of my own meditation, out of my own um, desire to have absolute clarity or more clarity, more understanding on those things that uh, that arises in our experience. And today, I'm just really was has been kind of consumed by the thought um, as it pertains to what we call the real you, or you hear us on our truly live show. We talk about the real you. If you would look at our in about sessions and from the Truly Foundation, which is our nonprofit organization, we spend a tremendous amount of time talking about the true self, talking about uh, reality, talking about oneness, and we also spend a lot of time on the subject of awareness. You hear that in a lot of our talks, a lot of our conversations, and and so um, and just one recent session kind of struck me when the question came up about awareness. We were having a conversation on awareness and talking about that ultimately that's what we are. We are awareness itself. It is it is that which identifies us or makes us like the one creator. It is what makes us like God. It is that likeness, that image that we were made in awareness, which we substitute sometimes with the word consciousness. Consciousness and awareness are interchangeable. To be conscious, or to be aware, uh, we're saying that those are synonymous. Or to be God is to be conscious and to be aware, and we're saying that that's what God is. That's what ultimate life is consciousness and awareness. And this consciousness and this awareness that we talk about, not that it is some made thing or created thing, but we talk about it from the standpoint that that is all there is. That is what reality is. It is to be conscious or to be aware. And as we've talked about it, we talked about awareness or consciousness or reality or the real you or the Christ or the I am. All these uh, terms that we've used are pretty much synonymous to what our heart is trying to express in its deepest understanding. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit today about that, even as there was a very profound question that came up in one of our recent sessions by one of our dear patrons. And as we were talking about awareness, the question was asked, at what point did we get it? At what point did you get it? Oh, at what point did we recognize the awareness that we are? It says, when did the awareness dawn on you? Or when did it dawn on us that we are awareness? I would say that would be another way to put the question. In other words, at what point did you get it? Meaning, at what point did you realize that you are awareness? Was it something, did it come from something that you read or something that you heard? And that was a very profound question as we were discussing the subject of awareness. And just like any other idea, it can be somewhat not clear, or it can be not clearly understood initially as it is being presented, and the way in which it's being presented, and also the way that it is being received, or the way that it's being heard, can become a block to its clarity, a block to the purity of what is being communicated. And so we hear the word a lot today, to be aware or to be awake. So I just wanted to spend some time talking about this because it just in my own experience and just from my own understanding, it is not something that we finally get. It's not something that is out there for us to find. Even though the great teacher says, "Seek and you shall find; knock, and it shall be open unto you." But when we talk about awareness from its purest sense, we're not talking about something to acquire or to obtain. Ultimately, awareness, which is what is ultimate, what we're talking about is the reality that is all there is. That is what reality is. It is being conscious and it's being aware. Without it, nothing happens. Without it, there can be no experience. Without consciousness, there is nothing to experience. And we can have no experience. All experiences take place within the boundless, endless, unlimited reality of awareness or consciousness. Without it, consciousness has to be first. And it is through consciousness that we understand that it is always present. It is the only thing that is unchanging. It is the only thing that is unaltered. And when I say thing, I'm not talking about like a made thing, but it's the only reality that is unchanging, is unaltered. It's like almost like it's described by one of my admired teachers, Rupert Sparrow. It's described as this boundless, endless, colorless state, field, this boundless field, this borderless field of reality. And it's all encompassing, meaning that what it pervades everything. It pervades all things. It's like, I use the example because Rupert used the example of a movie screen, or you can take it down to your TV screen, or your even your computer screen. The example is that, like on a movie screen, that movie screen is all encompassing in the sense that it never changes. It's unaltered. It remains in its place all the time. If you walk into a movie and there's nothing being projected onto the screen, all you see is this large black screen that is in that sense it's limited. In other words, you can go and measure it. But when we talk about awareness being this boundless field of reality that has no beginning, no end, it has no size. Awareness has no age. Uh, it has no sound. It just is. It doesn't come from anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't. It's not born. It doesn't die. It merely remains constant. It is what we would call permanent, a permanence. And so when we talk about awareness, what we're talking about is the all-encompassing reality of a boundless, spaceless, and formless reality that is the source of all life, that is the source of all experience. And without it, nothing happens. Without it, nothing is observed. Nothing is known. Nothing can be known without awareness or without consciousness. And so when we talk about it in our conversations, whether it be on Truly Live or Truly Foundation, I know it sometimes can get watered down to be just another concept. But from the point of view that we are coming from, what we are saying is that which is almighty, that which is all-encompassing, meaning it is everything without any beginning or end. That which is life, that which is eternal, that which is changeless and boundless, that which is unaltered, that which is the source of all. And a lot of time when we define something at that level, we're talking, it usually refers to as God or the ultimate or the father of creation or the creator. All these names become synonymous to what we're trying to communicate, which is limited in the language that we use. That awareness is everything. It is what God is. And in its truest sense, it is who we are. We are a part and a parcel of awareness itself. Why? We are aware, we are conscious. So therefore, we become the observer of all. We become the observer. One of the features or functions of awareness is that we're always knowing. That's why if you look back over your life, you will always notice that you was aware, you was in the knowing or in the knowledge or in the know of what was going on in every experience that you have. What was always present was that part of you that was the observer. And then you notice that there was a part of you that was actually experiencing what you were observing. They're not two different things in the sense that without the awareness or the ability to observe, there will be no ability to observe anything. So that which observes and that which is observed, the event or the experience itself, the activity, they're really one and the same. However, without any experience at all, awareness is still present. Awareness does not need experience in order to validate itself. It doesn't need activities. It doesn't need any events. It doesn't need any feelings. It doesn't need any sensations. It doesn't need a body. It doesn't need any material things. Awareness doesn't need form at all, or even time to validate itself. Awareness is before time or form or any experience that you can have, or any experience that can be what? Observed. So ultimately, when we talk about awareness, we're talking about the ultimate. That is the ultimate, unchanging, unaltered reality of the one thing, of the foundational thing that life is. And because you share in that awareness, different traditional religions refer to it in different ways. And that's okay. It's just a matter of communication. But as we expand our understanding of it, we begin to enjoy the true nature, or like we say, the real you that we are. As you expand your deepest understanding of the fact that you are awareness itself, being aware of itself, or being yourself. And it's very simple. It's not complex, but we can make it complex in sometime the way we explain it, or sometime the way we receive it. But this is the most natural. It is the most natural experience for you or anyone to recognize that it is through, or it is awareness that you are, and not so much your bodily experienced identification. That is what changes. That is what has experiences. That is what have sensations. That is what that is what goes to kindergarten. That is what goes to college. That is what decides to have relationships and get married. That is what decides to take up different hobbies. That is what decides that it likes certain food, or it doesn't like certain food. That is what decides that it wants to do with its money. That is what decides what it wants to do with its skill set. That is on the side of experience. And what we try to communicate is that is not your true identity, because that is what changes. That is what flux and flows. That is what have different experiences. That's not the real you. But that is you, in the sense that it is within the reality that you are awareness itself, that you give space for experiences to happen within your very nature, which is awareness, which is consciousness. Without awareness and without consciousness, nothing could happen. And all we're trying to say is you are that, and you are that all the time. That has never changed. Even if you recognize it as, or you don't recognize that you are awareness itself, which we call the real you, or which we may call the Christ, or your God self, or your infinite self, or your divine self. I mean, there's many terms, and we can get lost in the terms. I want to simplify it even more than that. I want it to be so, I don't want it to be so, it is so simple that as we talk about it here in this session, I think you're going to expand your deepest understanding of the reality that you and I are awareness itself, becoming aware of itself. And we become aware of our being this borderless, bodiless, timeless being that we all share, called awareness. As you become more open and aware to that, it is through our experiences that are used to open us up to this fact, because this is a fact. It's a matter of fact. This is what all of us always have been and always will be, regardless of our experience. We can't change our nature. We can deny our nature. We can not understand it, but we cannot change it. And that's why, uh, if you would ask any person, just right off the cuff, who are you? Or what are you? One of the common responses would always start with I. I am, or I am. That's just so natural. Why? Because that is the truth. You are. And so, one thing that we are all certain of, and you've heard me say this before, is that the one thing that we all are certain of, absolutely certain of, is that we exist, that we are, that there's a self here. We're not confused about that. We're absolutely sure that we exist. I am. I exist. But what we're not certain of is what we are or why we are. And it's almost like we're all on this journey to find out what we are and why we are. And we turn to our experiences. We turn to the activities within our life. We turn to the relationships within our life. We turn to the culture that we're in. We turn to the conditionings that we've been shaped by. We turn to all of these external things to try to explain to us, or to try to find meaning within them, or to try to find significance within these things, our activity, our life, our events of our lives, our history, our family history, our choices, our highs, our lows, our hurts, our pains, our joys, our happiness. We look within all of those things to try to answer the question of the what we are, or why are we. And that's the experience that we have on this dimensional plane, called what? A human experience. But ultimately, from my point of view, and from the point of view that has opened me up like a flower to the knowing of my own self, to the fulfillment and the enjoyment of my own self, it was the recognition of that real you, of being one with that one with the awareness and the consciousness itself. That it was nothing separate. I'm not separate and apart from that, but I'm one with that. And all that plays on the screen, all of the events and activities that plays on the screen of my awareness, or my consciousness, meaning my activities, what I do, what I choose, what I feel, where I go, the experiences I have, what I'm doing even now, creating this platform where I'm sharing it, where we share, transformation and advanced spirituality. These are choices that I'm making, but these are choices that I'm making that are different than the choices I made earlier in my life, when I did not have this deeper understanding, or I was not aware or conscious, or I didn't recognize the all-encompassing, fulfilling self that I am, as a part of this one self that we are. And so I just wanted to get on here and talk about it to just bring more clarity, uh, to say that it's not something that we're trying to acquire. It's not some reward you get after many, many years of searching. It's not something that you do to make something happen. To address the question that came up, what was the point when you got it? Well, it's not that there was a point when I got it. There was a point when I recognized what was already there. So I realized there was nothing to get. But in reality, there were blocks. There was a veil. Um, there was a fence. We call it defense. that was built and erected through my own through my own focus on the activities versus my being aware of the reality. I got caught up in the activities of my life. I got caught up in the physicality of my life to the point that I just wasn't recognizing what was already present, what was always present, and that I was one what was always present. But I got caught up in my temporary life, that life that had a beginning and an end. And we all do that. But there is the life that has no beginning, that has no end, that is always present. There is this reality that is the ultimate reality. That one can come to know. Jesus talked about it this way. He said that you shall know the truth. Notice now, he said, you shall know it. And the truth that you know will make you free. So their truth or reality or awareness or consciousness can be known. And it wants to be known. It is in the knowing of itself that it shines in its greatest glory. It is you coming to know your true reality. It's in the knowing of yourself that you become this bright, shining light that is self-evident, that you are one with reality, that you are already this unchanging, unaltered, borderless, boundless, unlimited expression. And not just an expression, but you are it. You are the real thing. You are awareness itself. You are God itself. And the activities of your life, the mere fact that there is a awareness of a self, of a bodily self. There's an awareness of a body self being in time and space. There's an awareness of a bodily self with an identification being in a world where there's other bodies, billions of other bodies. And that there's all this activity, there's all these events, there's all these relationships, there's all these personal sensations, there's all these choices to be made, places to go, people to see, there's these relationships to be had. And it's like we're all creating this historical legacy, which is merely the content of all experiences. It's merely content. And we are not the content ultimately, because the content changes. But we are the content in the fact that the content could not occur without your true nature, without your awareness providing the space in which for it to have a stage to play out. Just like the movie could not be seen on the screen if the screen did not allow all the content of the movie to play out on the screen. But you'll notice in that the screen never changes. The screen is never affected by the content of what's in the movie, whether it be killing or whether it be love making or whether it be children playing or whether it be, some great athletic feat, whether it be total war or whether it be total peace. Where in this movie there's this, great gathering, or whether in the movie there's this one person that's all alone, whether this person is happy or whether they're depressed. All this is showing up on the screen. That's providing the space for this to happen. And so the screen is like the observer. And all of the content of the movie is like that which is being observed. But it never affects the screen. It remains the same. Likewise, who we are as conscious being, who we are as aware beings, we are never changed by any activity on any level in this world or in any other world or any world to come. We're never altered. We're never changed. There's never a beginning or an end to our being aware or aware presence. Always awareness is always present. So even in our most what we think might be our most lowest point in our experience, awareness is present. Even in what we would think would be our highest experience, love is present. Why? Because love, present awareness, or love, or consciousness is what provides the source or is the resource for any and every activity in any and every event. So the self that we experience as a body self, and all of the choices and all the experiences that we have, in those experiences, we never lose this sense of being myself, because you cannot not be yourself. You cannot not be aware, because you are awareness. You cannot not be conscious, because you are consciousness itself. So it's not something to obtain. It's not something that is rewarded after, a certain amount of searching. No, it is but a discovery. It is but a recognition. It is but a revelation or a revealed knowledge of what you already are, of what is already present. So even as I'm making this talk right now, even as I'm having this monologue, you could be becoming more aware of your nature of awareness. You could be becoming more insightful about what is already a reality, which is you, which is all humanity. And so one of my great admirers and mentors of spirituality, his name is Rupert Spira, and he has several books out that can help, and it helps me, and it can help anyone to grasp what's already there. He has this one book that's called Being Myself, and I'm going to read from page 8. I think it will help us right here. I just want to read from page 8. And it says, enlightenment is, as such, not a new or extraordinary experience. I mean, when you hear the word enlightenment or awakening, Sometimes we think it's, oh, this is like something really far out there, something really super spiritual. But here, Rupert shares with us that it is not something new or extraordinary. It's not an extraordinary experience. It's not an extraordinary event. He says it's not new and it's not extraordinary. And so in our journey of experience, it's like we're seeking for something new and for something extraordinary. And that's just part of, the diversion. That is even part of and that sounds like, something that is good, but that's also part of what diverts us away from just the simple truth of being present, of what is already present. We think that there's something new, there's something extraordinary that we have not experienced, that if we would experience it, then we would be enlightened or awakened. And that's not the case. Like in the story of the prodigal son. The prodigal son being at home with his father and his other family and all the servants, and was just symbolic of that which we call awareness. That situation was just symbolic of what perfection is, just like the creation story where there's the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is symbolic of what is ultimately that which is perfect, complete, and whole, all encompassing, all provisions made. There's no need. Everything that there is within that. It's within that unit. So in the story of the prodigal son, the idea came to the prodigal son that there was something that he didn't have that was outside of his father's domain. Just like in the creation story, the story of Adam and Eve, story of the Garden of Eden, that's just symbolic. Of awareness, that represented awareness being what all encompassing. It represents consciousness, meaning everything that there is is of any value was present right there in the garden, just like it was present in the prodigal son home. But somehow, some way, this thought came to Eve and Adam that God was withholding something from them, and there was something else that they did not have. And it comes in the form of a deceptive thought. And so it is through that took all humanity, through those symbols that took humanity on the detour into self-suffering. But in reality, everything that could be had was in the garden. In reality, or in awareness and in consciousness, everything that could be experienced was in the prodigal son's home. But you'll notice that in both situations, they both detoured away from that reality and from that truth, and went and made to try to make something, or make of something that was nothing. And ultimately it resulted in both cases in the suffering of the prodigal son, or in the creation story case, the suffering of all humanity through the acts of Adam and Eve. But in reality, nothing changed. But in reality, their experience did not change reality. Their experience did not change the mere fact that they were awareness itself, that they were whole and complete. There was nothing missing and nothing broken. They were the all already. There was nothing outside of them. And so when we try to find something outside of our true nature of awareness or consciousness, which means we're completely whole, we're completely secure, we're, we're completely and eternally safe. When there's a thought or an idea that we're not whole or we're not complete or we're not safe, the idea that there's lack and there's scarcity, what it does is trigger us into looking and seeking within content, within activities, within relationships, within a world that is temporal. We seek to make something of nothing to satisfy everything. And what you get is what we've experienced. But even those experiences have not changed anything. You might think to yourself, well, if I didn't have this relationship, or maybe if I didn't have this child, or if I didn't make that decision, or only if, and only if, and only if, and only if, things would be better. That's part of the deception. No, you have been and you always will be everything that there is. You are awareness, you are consciousness, you are the source of everything. You are the borderless. You are the boundless. You are the infinite, eternal. You are the very source itself. You are the very observer itself. You have always been the observer. And you are the observed. And so let me get back to what Rupert was saying. So he says enlightenment is, as such, not something new or extraordinary. So we don't have to go look for it. It said it's not an extraordinary experience to be attained or to be acquired. So we can just relax right here, knowing that there is nothing to look for. There is nothing to search for. There is no experience to have, even in the experience. Because what we're talking about, again, needs no experience to validate itself, needs no activity, need no coloring. It needs nothing because it's everything. And that is what we are. We call it, or the term we use is awareness or consciousness. We are life itself. We call it life, or we call it love. Or the word that we use a lot here in our two platforms is reality. You know, there's a song out there called Back to Reality. Right. Well, it's not that we go back to reality. We just come to a realization that we are what? We are reality. And so it says, it is not an experience to obtain or to acquire. That is part of the deception, that we're looking for an experience. Well, I'm here to announce today that you no longer have to look for an experience. You transcend all experience and all experiences. It says, it is simply the revelation now. Revelation simply means something that is revealed. Not that it was not there all the time, but that it's just being revealed or recognized in that moment. Revelation is but a recognition. Recognition is but a revelation. And in most spiritual teachings, you would hear that all revelation comes from God, or comes from what? Awareness, or come from consciousness, or come from reality. And if we're already a part of that, that means that really all revelation comes from us. It comes from within. It doesn't come from without. It comes from within the nature. So that being the case, if there's no extraordinary event, if there is no new thing to find, if there is no experience to attain or to acquire, but simply that which can be known, become known through revelation. It's just revealed, become aware. And sometimes that awareness comes through the removing of the blocks, removing of the veil that we have built to cover it up. You know, we talk about undoing, that to awake is to undo. To be enlightened is to undo all of the falsehood, all the falsity that we have built around that which is true. And so it says, it is simply, enlightenment is simply the revelation of the original nature of our self or our being. It's the revelation of the real you. It's simply the revelation of the real you. And you might, and to address the question again, which was asked, at what point did you get it? When did awareness dawn on you? Was it something you read, something you heard? Well, according to Ruford, according to the scripture, the Bible says that it is through revelation knowledge that Paul come to understand what the Christ is. That Paul came to all of the revelations. So that means that it was a direct unveiling, it was a direct exposure to reality coming from his own nature. It came from within. Because if you are a part of that which is the truth, that which is the truth will reveal itself to itself. It's like awareness is aware of itself. Consciousness becomes a conscious of itself. Not a separate self, but of the one self. And so it says, enlightenment is simply the revelation of the original nature of ourself, or of our being. And the revelation of our true being never ends. It never stops. It is always revealing itself. Yourself, or myself, is always attempting in the engagement of revealing your true self to yourself. That's what awareness does. It becomes aware of itself. And so through all the events, all the activities, all of the timeline, every activity that spans from a physical birth to a physical death, those are just activities that happens in the field of awareness. And in all of those events, you never lose the sense of what? Being yourself, or I am, or that you are the I am self. Because you can never lose that. You can never lose your divinity. You can never lose your true nature. You can never be apart and separate from yourself, even though we have this feeling of being separate and apart. We have this feeling of being isolated. We have this feeling, of having, uh, health issues, mental issues, monetary issues, social issues, political issues, religious issues, all these activities. They seem real and they seem separate from that which is loving and that which is peaceful and that which is one. But these are all just content of experience that only can be experienced because there's awareness and because there's consciousness. And you are the consciousness and the awareness that provides the energy, that provides the creativity for all the activities, all the relationships. You are. And that's the most natural, that's the most revealing knowledge that one can have. That is the becoming of the knowing that it talks about. The truth that you know shall make you free. So when we talk about a what you might think of be a lofty idea like awareness of consciousness, you might be saying like Oliver, well, we leave that for the gods. We're just here to have fun. Well, you already know by now that there's no fun in being overtaken or caught up in the contents of your life. That's what we call drama and trauma. But that same drama and trauma can be transformed or transcended when we come to embrace the reality of our true nature as awareness, as consciousness, as God. And the perfection, and the holiness, and the completeness that it is, that we are. When we begin to now allow this awareness to pervade our perception, the way that we understand things, the way we perceive things, when we allow this knowledge, this knowing of perception, of awareness and consciousness to pervade every part of our life, we become this light, this great shining light, like Jesus said, you are the light of the world. Meaning you have come to a level of understanding of who you are, that you become like a portal or pathway for others to come to know who they are. And this is not sophisticated or complicated at all. This is very simple. But I hope this is helping. I know this is helping. Because even in my sitting here, revealing and sharing and talking about these things, I know the freedom that I'm experiencing. I know the expanded awareness that is coming over me. I know it's coming over you. And so I'll finish reading this. So I'll read through it again now without the explanation, and it's going to make sense. It says, enlightenment is, as such, not a new or extraordinary experience to be obtained or acquired. It is simply the revelation of the original nature of our self or of our being. It's our original nature. And so when we recognize what we are, we're recognizing our original nature. Our original nature that is completely whole, that is completely innocent. And we know how we have struggled with that concept of innocence. We have covered up our innocence with the concept of guilt. And we've made guilt a belief and have imprisoned our innocence in the jail of guilt. But today we open up the door and let what? The innocent go free. You let yourself go free. Why? It is through the revealed knowledge. It's through the knowing knowledge. So to address the question, is it something you read? Is it something you heard? It's some, how revelation comes. Well, revelation comes. It it only comes from you. It only comes from awareness itself. So it's not going to be something you heard or something you read. It may show up in the form of hearing or something you read as witnesses to what to bear witness to what you already know to be true within yourself. It may show up that way, but it doesn't necessarily come that way. Ultimately, it comes from itself. It comes from you. It comes from you. So you don't have to go to a certain part of the world. You don't have to be in the presence of a certain person with certain credentials. You don't have to go to a certain school. You don't have to read a certain book. You don't have to be a part of a certain religion or a certain political party. You don't have to, be a certain age. You don't have to be under a certain amount of duress. There is no condition for revelation. Revelation is an ongoing, everlasting, ever-present reality. And so how and under what conditions, we just create that for ourselves by looking outside of ourselves for what is not out there. So we create through objective experiences. We create helpers. We create scenarios that causes even ourselves to provide the necessary means by which we come to recognize these things. That's why every human experience is totally different. Totally different situations, circumstances, and conditions. But it doesn't matter. Those are all what? Those are all experiences that seem to be what? That seem to be what? An individual experience. But it's not. Again, it's like a movie playing on the screen. Well, ultimately, our original nature is revealed to us. And that's why Jesus never made altars. He never built altars. He never made a shrine. Jesus never wrote a book. You notice Jesus didn't write a book. Jesus didn't leave anything in form. Why? Because he didn't want us what? Worshiping the form. We would have worshiped the form. We already do that in some of the things that he did. But Jesus never wanted us to worship form. Jesus never wanted us to be stuck in that which has been made. Jesus always pointed us. He was a pointer. He was a helper. He always pointed us back to ourselves. He always pointed us back to our what? True nature. He always pointed us to what? Our consciousness. He always pointed us to our awareness. He called it the heart. He said, whatever's in the heart. The heart. What is the heart of the matter here? The heart of the matter is that we remain as we always have been, as these divine, eternal, unchanging, unaltered beings that not only are we the source of it, but we are the ones that experience it. So we're always have this sense of being ourself. Even the guy that's been in prison for 30 years, he's still experiencing being himself all the time. He is not his experience. He's still the innocent, divine, eternal, aware present consciousness. Being aware of his experience, but he's not his experience. So wherever you find yourself in life right now, and whatever you're experiencing, your awareness, your consciousness is revealing to you your true nature, regardless of the situation, circumstance, or condition. Because when you come to know yourself transcends all situations, circumstances, and conditions. And so there's no experience to have. There's no extraordinary experience. There's nothing new to find. You are the all-encompassing one. You have always been, and you will always be that. All of us. Doesn't matter if you're the president, or are you the lonely one in the corner at the crack house, feeling hopeless? Doesn't matter. Those are just experiences. That's not who you are. And so, nothing could be more intimate and familiar than our being. Nothing can be more intimate or familiar than the knowing of yourself. It's not extraordinary. It's not something new. It's familiar and it's intimate, which is why it feels like coming home. It feels like coming home when you embrace the revelation of your true identity as awareness or aware presence or as consciousness. Traditional religion may say as the child of God, as the son of God, as the Christ. These terms only get us even more off center. So let's not get caught up in the terminology. Let's stay with the reality of what is being revealed here. It says it feels like coming home. Like the question was that, when did you know it? Part of the knowing can be the feeling. Do you sense yourself? Do you sense within yourself that you are a self? That you exist, that you're conscious, that you are aware? Do you sense that there's something that is beyond your experience? Do you sense the fact that you are aware of what happens in your life and what happens around you? And you're always aware of what you are aware of? Do you notice what you're noticing? Well, who's doing the noticing? And what are you noticing? All these realities, including your experiences, they are part of the same self. It's just that one is permanent and the other is temporary. But that which is all encompassing, that which is valuable, that part of you that is what permanent, which is awareness and consciousness, which is what God is, which is what you are. And that is the most natural awareness. That is the most natural revelation that comes to all of us. It's like waking up from sleep. When you wake up from a deep sleep, what happens? You just wake up. It's natural. There's no bells and whistles. There's no, 16-gun salute going off. You just wake up. It's natural. So to come to know yourself is so natural. It's so simple. That we confused ourselves by looking for something new and for something extraordinary. And so it's intimate and it's familiar. So you can relax. Just relax in the knowing of yourself. Just relax and rest in that. You've heard me say many times that we are the holy home of God. That's what I mean. Once you get this, and you have got it, like the question came, once you accept this, it's the obvious. It is what? It's the ultimate. It's the, no, what's the word I'm trying to use? You can't get away from yourself, is what I'm trying to say. You cannot get away from your lovely self. You can't, and you don't want to. It says in the Zen tradition, it is referred to as the recognition of our original face. The recognition of what? Our original face. And see, our original face is formless and timeless. It's invisible to the natural eye. In A Course in Miracles, it said that Jesus was a man who was having human experiences, that remembered God. Or it said this way: he was a man that what? Saw the face of Christ in all humanity. And it was in his seeing the face of God in all humanity, it said that he remembered himself. He remembered God. So Jesus, as a man, he saw, not with his natural eye, but he saw through the revelation of awareness and consciousness. He saw the reality of all humanity. And he remembered himself. He remembered God. Why? He realized that is the one self that we all are, that we all share. And he goes on to say that there is nothing exotic or mystical about enlightenment, contrary to what our culture would say, contrary to what religion would say, or contrary to what we would say spiritual people would say. They're looking to be enlightened. They're looking to be awakened. He says, there is nothing exotic or mystical about enlightenment. It is simply the recognition of something that was always known. You already knew this. We already knew this. See, it's like coming back home. Home school. He said, it is simply the recognition of something that was always known. So if it was always known, that means what? There's nothing to seek. There's nothing to find. There's something to do what? Just to be aware of. just to recognize. It says, indeed, it is always known. You have always known yourself. You have always known and been conscious of your reality. We just got caught up in what? All the activity, all the events, all the relationships, all the sensations, all the history, all the drama, all the trauma, all the activity that was playing on our consciousness and our awareness. We turned and became what? So engulfed, so engaged to the point that we say this is who we are, this limited body self. And we lost our way. We didn't lose the knowledge, we just lost our way. We fell into a dream or a trance, as the Course says. And our self was calling us all the time to wake up, to become awake. It says, it is simply the recognition of something that was always known. Indeed, is always known before it is clouded by our experiences. So our experiences clouds our awareness and our consciousness. And then he closes by saying, no one becomes enlightened. Oh, that's a new statement. That needs some qualification. He closes by saying, no one becomes enlightened. Our being, our true nature, is simply relieved or set free of an imaginary limitation. So we get caught up in what Rupert called here imaginary limitations, which is the content of our life, which includes all our relationships, all of the events, all of the activities, all the sensations, all of the drama, the trauma, all of the good times, the not so good times, everything, the culture we're in, what goes on in the world. We get so caught up into that. He calls that what? We get relieved from the imaginary limitations. All those are limitations. Why? Because they're only temporary. But what's not limited is your boundless. What's not limited is your ageless, your birthless, your deathless. What's not limited is your infinite intelligence. What's not limited is the real you as awareness and consciousness itself. The real you as a part and a parcel of what we call God. Jesus even said it to the religious people of his time. In one of the New Testament books, on one of the Gospels, he said, and he was talking to the religious people, he said, have you not read? He said, or have you lost the knowledge of? He said, have you not read that ye are gods? He said, have you not read in your own religious books that ye are gods? In other words, have you become so taken by your imaginary limitations that you have forgot who you are? He said, and as a result, of your forgetting, you have lost your way. But I am here to point you back to the way. I am here to be the light of the world. I am here as a helper, as a savior. Why? Because I have what? I have a shared interest with you. I am the very awareness that you are. And I have an interest in you becoming aware, reacquainted with your true self. And so that's what he dedicated his life to. And when you or myself or anyone else wake up to this reality, that's what we dedicate our life to. The Bible calls it what? The will of the Father. I come to what? Do thy will, O God. And what is the will of God? That all men, all women, all humanity to wake up to the reality of their true self as awareness and as consciousness. God guarantees that all of us will, ultimately. Why? It can't be any other way. It's inevitable. That's the word I was looking for. The inevitability of our awakening. And when you know that it's inevitable, then you can be relaxed, you can be at peace, you can be happy. Why? It's already done. It's a finished work. So we don't have to what? We don't have to fret. We don't have to, you know, try to force anything. There's nothing to force. And so it says, our being is simply relieved of an imaginary limitation. I remember the day. I remember the hour. No, I won't say the day and the hour. I remember the day and the hour I had an encounter. But since that encounter, my awareness, my consciousness has been expanding. My understanding has been going deeper. My love uh, has been opening up. Like Jesus said, we go from glory to glory, from revelation to revelation, from understanding to understanding. And so it's not a point that we get it. It's nothing to get. It's not a point that we get it. But it is the revealed awareness, the revelation that comes from your own self. So you are your own savior. You're your own savior. Yes. Yes. It said, so as a result of being what? Relieved from the limitations. It says it's natural condition. And the natural condition from one being relieved from their own imprisonment is that of peace and happiness. And it shines forth from within as a great light for all the world to see. So hopefully this talk, this time together that I've shared on this subject will help expand your awareness. I'm only here to be helpful. I'm only here to help make sense of one's life. I'm not here to complicate or to take anything away from anyone. I am only sharing that which I have been shared in my own experience. But now I have integrated that experience with reality. And so it makes life so much enjoyable. You know, I really, I have chosen the game of golf as a hobby, something that I like doing. And when I say I like doing, I don't just like playing golf, but I like the challenge that golf presents in the sense that it takes a certain skill set to really enjoy the game. And so in order to enjoy the game, it takes a certain skill set. I don't play golf just to play golf. I play golf because I'm enamored by um, what it provides for me to become more aware of the skill set that's already within me. It brings out more. It brings out more capacity, the unlimited capacity that I am. And so, at one point in my golf career, I was playing golf, trying to. Uh, uh, I was playing golf because I wanted to become good at it, but at the same time, I was wanting to become good at it as a part of my search to find myself. Because I started playing golf when I was 22 years old. I'm 63 now. But now, as I have been brought to a more expanded awareness and expanded consciousness of who I am and know the truth of who I am, I even like the choice of golf even much better. Why? Because I understand that I'm not only playing golf, I'm experiencing the clubs, the balls, the courses, the people, the fellowship when I'm doing that. But I'm also aware in that moment that I'm observing myself. I'm the awareness itself. I'm the one that is allowing the golf to be experienced. So I'm the observer and the observed. And so it makes that event, that activity, even more meaningful to me. And likewise with you, whatever you choose in life, because you have a desire for it, because it resonates with you, or whatever the thrill is, whatever the sport is, whatever the hobby is. Use it as a way, as a mean to express your ultimate boundless self. Never lose sight of who's the observer and who's being observed. Never lose sight of your true identity. Knowing that you are consciousness and awareness itself, providing the screen on which that hobby or that event or that activity or that relationship can be played out to express what love and to express the light that you are, to allow it to shine and help others create a space within their own consciousness, their own awareness, to have their own aha moment. Thank you so much. I hope this helped. I love you guys. I love life. I love the fact of who we are. We are inseparable. We are awareness and consciousness itself. Sila.